You ever wonder how the leaders of these massive global companies make those huge billion-dollar calls? Deciding where to invest, which new markets to jump into, or when to totally pivot their strategy. Well, it's not just a gut feeling. It's a structured way of thinking, a real method for trying to see what's coming next. And today, we're going to learn it.
So that's what we're here to do. In this explainer, we are diving headfirst into strategic case analysis. It's a powerful tool that really teaches you to think like a CEO. We'll break down the method step by step, and then we'll put it to the test with a fantastic real-world example.
Here's our game plan. First, we'll get clear on what a case analysis actually is. Then, we'll open up the Analyst Toolkit. After that, we're going to apply these tools to an amazing case study on Infosys, look at the strategies that made them so successful, and wrap it all up with some timeless lessons. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, what are we really talking about when we say case analysis? Well, it's all about learning to see a business not just for what it is today, but for what it could become tomorrow.
At its heart, a case analysis is where you roll up your sleeves and do a deep dive into a real company. You're not just reading a history lesson, you're stepping into the shoes of a consultant, or maybe even the CEO. Your job is to figure out what's going on, pinpoint the real challenges, and, this is the most important part, create a clear strategic plan to move forward.
A great way to think about it is like being a doctor, but for a company. You look at its history, that's the patient's past. You check its vitals, the financials, the operations. You figure out the underlying problem, and then you prescribe a strategic treatment to get it back to full health.
So why does this matter so much? Because look, strategy isn't just about what you know from a textbook, right? It's about what you can do. The case method is the bridge between theory and the real world. It throws you into a messy, complex situation and forces you to think on your feet to come up with practical plans that could actually work. It's really the definition of learning by doing.
Okay, so if you're gonna be that business doctor, you need a toolkit, right? You need the right instruments. This next part is all about equipping you with the essential frameworks you'll need for a really sharp analysis.
This 8-step process, think of it as your roadmap. You start with the company's story, its history. Then you look inside at its strengths and weaknesses, and you look outside at the opportunities and threats. All of that feeds right into your SWOT analysis. And from there, it's a logical path to understanding their strategy and finally making your own smart recommendations.
And right at the heart of this whole thing is the SWOT analysis. It looks like a simple little grid, but it is so powerful. It forces you to separate what the company can control, its internal strengths and weaknesses, from what it can't, the external opportunities and threats out there in the market. A solid SWOT analysis is the foundation for everything else you do.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's see how all this stuff works in the real world. We're going to take our new toolkit and apply it to one of India's most incredible success stories, Infosys.
Now, we're going to open up a little time capsule here. We're looking back to the year 2004. And I know what you're thinking. The numbers, the market, it's all totally different today. But that's exactly the point. By studying a company at a critical moment in its past, we can uncover strategic lessons that are just as powerful today as they were back then.
The story of Infosys is just wow. Started in 1981, pretty humble beginnings. Then, they break new ground, becoming the very first Indian company to list on the NASDAQ. And by 2004, they weren't just a big deal in India, they were a global force to be reckoned with.
Think about this number for a second. By 2004, their revenue was over 4,700 crores. That single number tells you a story of just explosive growth and an absolutely relentless focus on execution on a global scale.
So, what was the secret sauce? What was the big idea behind this rocket ship? This quote from the founder, Sri N.R. Narayana Murthy, just nails it. It's a crystal clear vision. Use global talent and cost advantages to deliver top-tier services in the world's most profitable markets. That right there is the very essence of a global strategy.
But a vision is just a vision, right? How did they actually pull it off? Now we get to look under the hood at the specific models, the engines that powered this incredible growth.
This was their game changer, the global delivery model. It was genius, really. Look how it works. Projects get broken down, some work happens right there with the client, on site. But the other parts, the coding, the testing, the support, that happens back in development centers in India. This let them use time zones to their advantage, basically creating a 24-hour workday, and it gave them access to a huge pool of amazing talent at a really competitive cost.
But it wasn't just about clever logistics. Their entire way of doing business was guided by this simple but really powerful internal philosophy.
something they called the PSPD model. This was their true north for making decisions.
So, PSPD. It stands for predictability, sustainability, profitability, and de-risking. Each one of these pillars was absolutely critical to their strategy. It made sure that their growth wasn't just fast, it was also stable and built to last.
Let's talk about sustainability for a minute. How do you make growth last? You turn your clients into true partners. In 2003, an unbelievable 92% of their revenue came from repeat clients. Now that is the key takeaway. It shows they weren't just chasing the next project, they were building deep, long-term relationships based on trust and quality.
And now for that last piece of the puzzle, de-risking. This chart tells a really important story. A whopping 73% of the revenue was coming from North America. Now on one hand, that's amazing, but on the other, it's a huge risk. What happens if the US economy takes a hit? This heavy reliance on a single market was a major strategic problem they had to solve.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. What are the big, timeless lessons we can pull from all this? This is where our analysis really turns into powerful, actionable insight.
Our case analysis makes the core issue crystal clear. The threat was being too dependent on the US market, especially with signs of a slowdown. But remember, every threat hides an opportunity. For Infosys, this was a flashing sign that said, diversify. It was time to build up their business in Europe and other parts of the world and go find new clients in those new places.
And that, right there, is the real magic of this method. A good case analysis does so much more than just describe what happened in the past. It cuts through all the noise, it identifies the single most important challenges and opportunities, and it shines a bright light on the most logical path forward for a company.
Back in 2004, Infosys was navigating the challenges of its time. But the world never stops changing, right? So I'll leave you with this question. If you were doing a case analysis for a big global tech company today, what new threats, things like AI disruption or major geopolitical shifts, and what incredible new opportunities would you identify for them? The tools are now yours.